Hello, welcome to the Real Estate Podcast. Today we're going to be covering grief. We have a special guest, Erin Wood, the owner and founder of Tear Strong LLC. He's going to talk to us about how we can handle grief and what we need to do to get through it. Stay tuned. Okay, today we're here talking with Erin Wood. He's the founder of the Wood Legacy and Tear Strong LLC. We are talking about grief today. So if I can, let me introduce you to Erin Wood.
How you doing?
All right. How did you come up with Tear Strong, and what do you hope to achieve for its from its creation?
I came up with the idea for Tear Strong because I was a child that didn't cry, a adolescent that didn't cry, a teenager that didn't cry, even a man that didn't cry. Probably for 40 years just if I had to think about it, it'd be about 40 years I didn't cry. I'm not going to tell you my age, but it was probably about 40 years I didn't cry, and that was just because of from what I had seen, examples in my life. My mother didn't cry at her mother's funeral. I can remember it like it was yesterday when my grandmother died of cancer. And I don't remember my mother crying. So that was the best example I had of how to release your emotion. So I was classically trained to not cry. So after she passed, that's all I could do. So Tear Strong came up because I was just crying and crying and crying and crying and crying. That's all I could do. My wife went out to the garage and said, I'm going to make you something. And she came back in with the design for like Tear Strong. And she said, every time I see you cry, like I've seen you cry for a long time now. And she said, but the more you cry, you seem to get stronger. So that's where the creation of Tear Strong came into effect.
That's pretty powerful. Wow, it's interesting, knowing that you didn't cry for 40 years. I mean, what is that like? Was it like uncontrollable? Like you couldn't stop? Were you remembering like things from your past, and you were crying for past hurts, past issues, situations that happened when you were 5? Or was it just the incident that's currently occurred?
It was just the incident. Like it has evolved into other things, and me, thinking about my father who wasn't there, or friends that died when I was younger. But in the very beginning, for at least a year and a half, it was just strictly mom.
So when we had a conversation a couple weeks ago, you had told me about something or a concept called accelerated comfort. Tell me about that.
Accelerated comfort is a mindset that I have had because I didn't know that out of all of this, I didn't really know. Grief is selfish. It's the most selfish thing I've ever seen, like in my life. Like, so it's funny because when other people tell me, oh, you helped me, it's a backhand kind of thing. Cause I'm like, I'm really not trying to help you. I'm trying to help myself. Like I'm trying to get all of this comfort and all of this, like quote unquote, to be okay for myself. I'm not really, this is going to sound so harsh, but I'm not really worried about you. I'm trying to get myself some comfort. But in saying that, it's actually been helping people get their comfort. And what I would like to do is if you can listen to my story, or you can listen to how I'm going through grief, or how I've lived my life and how I've not expressed emotion, and now I'm just an open book, maybe it'll get you to your comfort quicker than I have in this process, because I think I'm going like on a snail's pace. I think I'm like moving so slow, but people have told me, "Oh, you're actually doing better," and I'm like, well, I mean, I'm thinking I'm like going really slow, but everybody else says, "Oh, you've grown. You're doing so well." I'm like, no. But what I would like is that you get yours quicker by looking at how I'm going through grief.
So with that being said, people give you scriptures like John 14:1, and they say, "Let your heart not be troubled. Believe in God. Believe also in me." They also hit you with Matthew 5:4. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Those people are trying to give you something, but what are you really getting from that?
Absolutely nothing. I think this is a bunch of crap. Don't tell me, "Oh, you're gonna be okay. What I've come to find out is that every person deals with grief in a different way. We may be on, I'm not in your house, but I'm on your street. So I may not know exactly, it may not be the same thing, and it's not going to be the same thing. Everybody does it the total different way. I mean, but what I have found out is that don't come to me saying you will be comforted, because when it first happens, there really is no comfort. I mean, there is no comfort for the loss of a loved one, or yeah.
So how do people, now that you say that, how can you help people? Is it better that they just come and, like, if you need something, they ask you, what do you need? And they try to give that to you, but they don't spend their time trying to tell you a lot of things. What, for you, I know, like you said, it's different for different people, but for you, what would have been beneficial, weeks after that? Of course, the initial, you're not really even hearing what people are saying, but a little later, what would have been the things that people could have done or said that would have been beneficial for you? Because this may help someone else.
For the first, I'd say in my situation, the first 6 months, you couldn't talk to me. You could have said anything you wanted to say. I was not open to hear anything because I felt alone. So my wife did it best. I felt so alone, but she would just come and sit beside me. She wouldn't say anything. She wouldn't say,
Wow.
say, "You're okay. Are you okay?" Because the obvious answer to "Are you okay?" is no. So she did the best thing. She would come and sit beside me. She would just sit there and be there. She wouldn't say a word, but she would just sit there. So whenever I felt alone, I would look across, and I know I wasn't alone because she's sitting there, but she's not trying to manufacture a comfort. She's just like, if you need something, I'm here to give you what you need. And I didn't know what I needed, but I did need to not be alone.
So her presence, just being there,
Yeah.
not trying to push anything down your throat or force you to, you got to do this, you got to do that. She kind of she was there as a support. Like if you had to lean, you had her to lean on. All right. So tell me this. I'm gonna skip one of these questions and go to number 4. So how can success trigger painful episodes? Because when we talked, I remember you saying, I was kind of surprised when you said, well, success is not that fun for me because, it turns into thinking about other things.
It's more of we all want to, well, whether we say it or not, we all want to make our parents proud. So they can't see, they're not here to see the success that we're about to have or starting to create, or so. I mean, like my son just graduated. She didn't get to see that, but she would have wanted to see that. I mean, like for other people, I've heard I didn't have my, they had their son when their loved one was alive, but then their loved one died, and then they had a daughter. Well, they never got to meet the daughter or the kids they were going to have, or the money they're going to get, or the success, the degrees they're going to get, or anything like that. So they're not here to see you successful. So that brings on a lot of pain in some instances. So success can bring on pain in that instance.
So with that being said, I thought success might help you gain some comfort, or, when you've accomplished this, or you have a child that's accomplished this, and, you have accomplished kids, when they get these awards or they complete this, even though she's not here, doesn't it make you feel good though to know that even though she's not here, doesn't it make you feel good to know that this accomplishment still occurred? And yes, she wasn't able to see it, but she still had an integral part in that success because she poured in to that child. So does it help you with that, or is that one of those things where somebody's just telling you something and it's not really helping?
Sometimes it's grief is such a mental thing. It's sometimes I can go there. Sometimes I can be like, okay, yes, it was wonderful. She raised me and she did this. But then on the flip side, I look in the mirror, and in my situation, my mother never told me she was proud of me. So if you're fighting to be proud, then it's like a success. It's not really a success if she don't say, I'm proud of you. So it's a double-edged sword for me.
And that makes a lot of sense. I understand that now. Okay. Well, 1 Thessalonians 4:13 says, but we do not want you to be uninformed, brothers, about those who are asleep, that they may not grieve as others do with who have no hope. So, in these moments, how do you, and now, this is a new question, I'm throwing this in there, but how do you gain hope?
I gain hope by, and this is trust me, this is a evolution of grief and grieving. I gain my hope by, it's over time and opening up and expressing my emotion, because like I said, for 40 years I didn't express anything. So now I'm so open, I can express what I'm feeling, and that helps me get to there's hope, because I'm not shut up. Right. My heart isn't closed. For so long my heart was closed. Now my heart's open. So now I can I evaluate every relationship I have in my life. And so that gives me hope to be able to say, hey, I can talk to you and kind of work on our relationship without just shutting down.
Right. Which was your norm.
Right, which was the norm. Yeah.
Last two questions. What is one thing that you'd want to relay to someone who is suffering from grief? From your standpoint, you say a lot of times when you talk to people, you're actually trying to gain some comfort, not give comfort. But it turns out that God's using you to give comfort even when you're hurting and you're wanting to get some support or help yourself. So what kind of advice would you give if you're intentionally trying to give somebody comfort who's in grief?
I would say that just the realization that it's a walk. Grief is a walk you have to do alone, but the Lord is always there. So it's So that brings me the most comfort. If